Stronger Than My Excuses show, Money Matters, Planning for Business Survival. My name is Dan Osborne. I'm a CPA, Director of Cats Accountants, and the co-host of the Two Drunk Accountants podcast. First of all, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land in which we're meeting today, the Dark and Young people, and pay my respects to elders past and present. So, Stronger Than My Excuses will be producing a number of episodes in the coming months, so keep an eye out for all of these. Today, we'll be discussing ways to support people to have a financially healthy business and understand what that even means. We're here in front of a live audience today, in thanks to our event sponsors, Central Coast Unity Bank. And with me, my co-host, Darren Hooper, General Manager of Central Coast Unity Bank. Welcome, Darren.
Thank you. Thanks for that, Dan. Our aim is to find out not just why so many people don't understand their financial situation, but how they can take action to move towards a financially healthy business. We have a great panel lined up to help us today.
Yeah, that's right. And we're all going to be taking turns and answering all of these questions. So, Darren, would you like to introduce all of our guests today?
That'd be great. First, on my left, I have Terri Scott. Terri is the Chartered Accountant and Principal at Tax and Super Audits at at Tugra. So
Thanks,
welcome,
Darren.
Terri.
Exactly.
We have Rhonda Porter, who is a financial advisor from The Financial Choice.
Yep.
Welcome.
Thank you.
And we have Andrew Paton-Smith, who is the founder and CEO of Jazoodle.
So just before I ask the first question and we dive into our topic today, I'd just also like to thank our sponsors who will appear on the screen throughout the show. And in particular, our primary sponsor today, Jazoodle. So thanks, Andrew, for sponsoring the show, and we appreciate your support.
Our pleasure.
Yeah, and this show is about action, so no more excuses. Today we aim to show you the actions you can take to support a financially healthy business so you can thrive, not just survive. So this and every show will wrap up with action tools. As you're watching, please ask questions on any of the social medias and we will answer as quickly as possible.
So let's dive into the first question for today. And it's the place that you should always start, why? So why is it important to understand the health of your business financially? Many people think that they should already know how their business is going, but in my experience, they don't. So why is it important for them to understand the issues they face, particularly in those first few years in business? Let's start with Terri.
Thank you, Dan. It's good to be here, and I just wanted to say first of all that I know many small businesses, when they start, it's very exciting. There's a lot of things to do. There's so many balls in the air, and we want all the small businesses to be successful. Now, I'm a tax accountant, so I'm going to jump straight into that part, which is not really what they're looking at when they start, but they should, because when you start a business, it's hard to know how you're going. It grows very rapidly in the first year, so I always encourage people to plan for tax payments. There's the activity statement. Most business people know about that, which you're required to pay your GST and your staff withholding tax on that. But there's also tax instalments, and they don't actually start in the first year because the ATO are not aware that the business is making money. And so after a year's passed, they lodge a tax return, they have a tax bill. If they haven't prepared for it, they could have a tax debt that they have to manage. Then instalments kick in, and they actually got a series of payments in the second year, all close together, that needs to be managed.
We call that the second year tax trap.
And it happens to a lot of small businesses.
So it's important to understand the why, is because you could be in a lot of trouble tax-wise.
Yeah, so I believe they have to start tracking their finances from the beginning, even though it's up and down, and try and keep track of those tax payments and be ready for them.
What about you, Rhonda? Why do you think it's important?
Well, going into a business, it's your business, you are excited about it, you want it to be a success. You're doing it because you enjoy it, but you're also there to help your customers. I think most people when they start a business, they seem to focus on how much profit they're going to make. One thing I would sort of suggest is often work out what the cash flow side of things. Being in finance, we tend to look at the cash flow for a client. And a lot of people, when they first start out in their own business, they contribute their own funds.
Absolutely.
Okay, yeah. So the first 2 years is very important in business to know, to map out your success, to make sure that you've got your cash flow prepared, you know what your cash flow is each month, and to know what the difference between your profit and your loss, and if you've got too much stock, what can you do about it?
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely all great points. Andrew?
Yeah, I think just coming back on that, I think one of the really important things about small businesses and the business world and markets don't remain static. So, for instance, you may be seeing lots of cash coming into your bank, but is that going to continue over time? And I think it's important, going back onto the cash flow planning side of things, that markets change, new competitors come into the market. Do you find that you will have to start discounting, for instance, which is going to hit your profitability? So there's a number of lead indicators that you should really look at, no matter how great everything looks on the surface, that there could be a few areas within your business that are changing. It could be productivity of your employees, or how hard your assets are working for you as well. So really the important point for me is businesses and markets are not static, and that you need to be on top of those no matter what stage you're at in business.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great point. I think you can't make a decision without knowing all the information. So if you don't understand it and you're not looking into this, then how can you possibly navigate through a changing world? I think COVID was a prime example of that. If you didn't know what was happening in your business, then how were you going to navigate through that? Darren?
Yeah, just in addition to that, you're also looking at operational risk. So, your profit and loss is obviously important. So, a business owner can understand and identify whether they're making a profit or a loss straight away. But it's the factors behind of your profit and loss, and regarding staff morale, your bills getting paid on time. And prior to COVID, the economy on the Central Coast was quite stagnant. And just since a lot of businesses now are doing quite well, so you can fall into a false sense of security at this point in time, where you think, yes, okay, I'm making money, things are good, but it all comes down to planning for your future. So you're right, the first 2 years are very important, but it's your survival after that, and it's just a lot more than just making profit and loss, and really need to be able to identify the operational risk, and even something I heard this morning about continuity of your organisation, really doing a continuity plan, and really identifying just not what the profit is for the organisation, but identifying what challenges and risks you got going forward.
Yeah, that's a good point, and I know that's something that in business planning sessions that I've worked through with people, that it's a brand new thing to think about, is how do you continue your business when these sorts of things happen, and you're not going to know unless you have tools like platforms that you can use to analyse that data. And that really brings us to the next point, I think, which is what? What do you measure? How do you know your business is actually doing well or not? What is a financially healthy business? Andrew, let's start with you.
Yeah, I think financially healthy business, I think there's many elements to this. Cash and generating excess cash from your trading operations is obviously one of your key indicators, and that's something you should be planning for virtually constantly. There's some other areas within the business as well that you should really be keeping an eye on to see if that health is being maintained, such as your productivity of your workforce. Are your employees as productive and generating the levels of revenues that they once were? Are your assets working as hard for you within the business as they possibly can? And also look at the volatility of your revenues as well. I mean, the key area for a lot of business to know we're going to make X amount of money coming into the business before we open up the doors on a Monday morning is having that real confidence in your business and the revenue that you're generating from your business. but also is the business producing a return on your initial investments within the business, and that's taking more of a long-term look as well as evaluation. How is your business changing in terms of its business value over time as well?
Yeah, I think that's important, understanding what leading indicators lead to that success. You can have your lagging measures, you can look at your profit, you can look at your bank account, but what are the things that lead to those improvements? And that's why you need to be setting those KPIs that you've just mentioned. Darren?
The obvious things are your balance sheet, your income statement, your cash flow, those sort of things. So, but in addition to the basics, it's all about repeat business. So to judge what's working, what's not. Repeat business, your online reviews. So when you're talking to your business, make sure. Again, it comes down to profit and loss, but overall, you want to know that you're looking after your customers. So it really comes down to that business relationship that you're building up, and again, staff morale. If you don't have perfect within your organisation, the dollars and cents are great, but what is actually important is just checking those reviews and identifying those sort of opportunities.
Yeah. So, Rhonda, you'd be assessing people all the time if they've got a financially healthy business when you're completing loans and things for them. So what do you look for? What do you think are good indicators?
A cash flow surplus after they've paid their principal, if they've got lending, and their tax. So that's a really good indicator that they've got that they're well on the way. Also, just to know what their their monthly cash flow figures are that they've projected, discuss that with them, see how that fits in. A lender wants to know everything about a business and everything about what the client is doing now and what the client's planning for the future. So it's very important for the client to prepare and also to have a really good trusted advisor, and that could be not only a finance person but a business manager, and a really good accountant, solicitor, and especially IT, the way things are with cyber and security and everything. Have you got everything in place? And I'll tell you, the banks are really keen to know that client has got that in place for their business.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, there's non-financial measures to financial health of your business, because that's managing risk, really. Yeah. Terri, how about you?
Yeah, I agree with most of all of that. And paying bills on time is an obvious one, and usually most small businesses are managing all that day-to-day stuff pretty well. It's all coming in and out, but then there's the not so regular payments. I'll bring it up again, the tax payments, because they're not that regular that they have to plan for, but then they want the business to grow, so are they putting aside and planning for what they need to do to make the business grow? And are they being remunerated themselves? Because they obviously put money in the beginning, and I think a sign of a healthy business is that after that initial contribution, it's able to fund its own growth, so you don't have to go and find some extra money to keep putting in to keep it bolstered, and then if they don't have the money to do the growth, they actually have the capacity to borrow, and they can show that the business is healthy. They have the capacity to borrow to get a lumpy asset or something like that.
Yeah,
I think that's a really important point about the growth, and a healthy business has got to be able to sustain its growth into the future. The amount of times you see businesses that haven't got their funding structures set up correctly, their lending within the business or their equity set up, and that then hinders the ability to be able to scale that business over time. And I think that's a really good sign of a healthy business as well, that they've got that financial structure and means of finances set up correctly within the business for that growth element.
Yeah, I think the hard part to define about this is that for every business, these measures could be different. Different industries, different goals, different lifestyles, different plans. And so it really comes back down to planning for yourself, matching your own lifestyle and goals to that of the business and what it's trying to do, in my mind. The number one indicator when I speak to someone is, how's your business going? They try and tell me their bank balance or how many employees they have. And more often than not, they're not telling me anything. You know, number of employees just means you've got a lot of payroll. That doesn't mean you're getting anything out of them. Your bank balance could mean nothing. You know, what does that mean in comparison to your tax debt that comes up, as you were just talking about? So it's trying to match, I guess, what people think about their performance into, you know, these accounting measures that Terri and I might talk about, and that could be a number of things. But yeah, I think that they're all really good points. So the last question there, well, not last question, but the last part of this is how. You know, what actions can people actually take right now to achieve the outcomes that we've just spoken about, to make sure that they can actually be in touch with their finances and achieve these outcomes and these goals that they're trying to set and have that financially healthy business. Let's start with Darren on this one.
I think it's all about making connections. You need to be able to connect with your bank. You need to be able to connect with your accountant. There's business coaches out there. So from a banking point of view, when someone comes in requiring finance for their business, it's a matter of that we need to be reassured that that organisation has a business plan in place, knows where they're going for the next 2 to 3 years, provides us the financials over what's happened in the last 2 years. So it's very important that they have those connections, and there's plenty of resources around as well. You know, you have your local regional chambers. You have Business New South Wales, New South Wales Small Commissioner, Small Business Commissioner. So there's plenty of resources for these businesses to draw on, and the more they create those connections, and when they require that finance, and they go to their local bank, they can reassure the bank that they know what they're doing. And there's nothing about being more confident and having those connections and reassuring the bank that well, this is a viable organisation. So I think that's what they need to go. Just use the resources around. We found that there's a lot of people are afraid to put up their hand and ask for that help, and they're the ones who struggle eventually. So use the resources which are in front of you.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I think a lot of people don't know what resources are out there, and they know they want help, but they don't know what that means. They don't know what that looks like. So yeah, making those connections and reaching out to the people is a really good point. Andrew?
I think one of the key things that businesses can help themselves is really to keep their financial records up to date and keep them up to date regularly. It's not one of the most favourite jobs that a lot of businesses like to do, but working with bookkeepers and accountants will pay itself dividends over time. What that then does, once your records are up to date, that allows you then to have confidence in your numbers, in your profit and loss, and your balance sheet and your statement of cash flows, and also other reporting platforms as well. So when you get to that stage, then you can have really good, serious conversations with your business advisor or your accountant or your lender. And that way, and so from starting from just keeping good records, all of a sudden you've got a whole world of advice that you can take advantage of, and it wouldn't be a major pain point for you.
I think that's a really good point. Rhonda?
I think from a finance point of view, you know, they may come to us to look at consolidating debt, refinancing, just to sort of help them out. And preparation, as Andrew said, is the biggest key. If you're prepared with everything and you come to a bank, we can really look at what their plans are for the future and see if it fits in with what they're actually doing. And definitely seek assistance from a trusted advisor. Definitely ask. There's a quote that we use quite often. Benjamin Franklin quoted this, by failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail. And we live by that.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I agree, 100%. Terri?
Yeah, I agree with Andrew about the record keeping. Being an accountant, we love it. We love it. And these days, accounting programs are all online, so you can work with your figures wherever, or you can just make your accountant do them if you don't want to do them yourself. So, but I was going to add to that there's a lot of other great software out there, and the business, depending on what type of business it is, I'm sure that there's software they can utilise to help with their business, and everything's integrating now. There's apps that integrate with your accounting software. So I think all small businesses should look into investing into those type of things, because the day's sort of gone when you do your Excel spreadsheets and paper work. But my big tip on how to achieve this is something I share with all my clients, and I actually practice myself, and that is to have a separate bank account from the everyday business account, work out with an advisor a set amount and put a set amount in there regularly so that when these unusual amounts come around or tax payments come around, the money's available. Because there's nothing worse than having a tax debt and then having to manage yourself back out of that.
Yeah, that's right. And there's expansions on that. You might have heard of there's a model called Profit First that I've heard people use, and they can go 5, 6, 7 bank accounts. You know, you can get to the extreme end of that. So just adding and summing up what everyone said here, I think preparation is key. Doing business plans, knowing what a financially healthy business looks like, and ensuring that if you're not there, how do you get there? You know, we do something called a now, where, how review. Where are you now? You get that information from your accounting software, from platforms like Jazoodle. Where are you trying to get to? What does a healthy business look like? And then, all right, what are the steps we need to take to get from point A to point B? And let's keep you accountable to that. And accountability, as you were mentioning, you know, having those connections, having those people around you that can hold you accountable to those things is important. So lastly, I'd ask all of you for one word, basically. And this is just an action that people can take away from today, and just one word. Andrew.
Proactivity.
Rhonda.
Preparation.
Planning.
Connections.
Connections, good one. And yeah, all the same. Planning. That's the one key that anyone for a financially healthy business needs, is a plan.
Yeah.
Great, so I think this has been really insightful today. We've got a lot of great information from this, so I'd like to thank all of you and for participating.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No problem.
you.
Thank you. And thanks again to our sponsor, Central Coast Unity Bank.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
And we'd like to make a special thank you to our primary sponsor, Jazoodle. We know how passionate they are about this topic, and we appreciate your support for this show.
It's our pleasure. Such an important topic for small businesses.
Thank you.
So, yeah. Thank you.
And remember, you can watch us through YouTube and all the social medias, comment and like, or even ask a question, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. Share with anyone you think this show might help.
So I hope you all watch again as the show tackles more and more issues and come up with more actions plans. Thank you again to Darren Hooper, General Manager of Central Coast Unity Bank.
Special thanks again to our guests, Rhonda Porter, Financial Advisor, your financial choice.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Terri Scott, Chartered Accountant and Principal of Tax and Super Audits in Tuggerah. Got that one right?
Darren.
Andrew Paton-Smith, Founder and CEO of Jazoodle.
Thank you.
Please thank our wonderful host today, Dan Osborne, CPA Director at Katz Accountants, and also the co-host of the Two Drunk Accountants podcast.
Thank you. See you next time.